Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the DJ Sessions Presents the Virtual Sessions. I'm your host Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, on the West Coast. And coming in all the way from Dublin, we have Coke Beats back on the show again. Coke Beats, how's it going today?
All good, all good. Thank you for having me again, Darren. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's been about a year since we last talked. I think it was, I was looking at my notes, and I think maybe August last year we were
Correct,
chatting.
yeah.
Uh, you sent over a guest mix last time. We're expecting to get another guest mix this time. Super excited for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you've been pretty busy over the last few months here. We were talking a little bit about the pre-show, about you doing some touring. Tell us about that and what's been going on over the last 6 months.
Yeah, so the last time we spoke, I was mainly preparing basically for the projects that I am currently either almost done or still work in progress for summer 2024. I have done several gigs in mostly like raves actually, in private events. I was in LA and I played at the Dirty Laundry, which is a great underground venue. Not really underground, it's in West Hollywood, and they have an interesting collective of DJs that focus on different subgenres of house music, and called Club Evil. And so if you're interested, if you're in the West Coast, if you're in LA, definitely check out Club Evil. It's on socials, on Instagram and so forth. Check their mixes in their nights. And also, on top of that, I was attending the Grammys because I'm a member of the Recording Academy, and I was there both supporting the releases which I voted for, and meeting some of my friends from LA, San Francisco, San Diego, which they were attending, obviously, the Grammys. Even I'm actually part of the New York chapter because of my affiliation with a lot of the music stuff that I did many, many years ago in New York. And following that, I focused a lot on studio productions, on studio work. So in between March 2023 and now, so basically in the past 10 or 12 months, I did a lot of releases. And lately I focused mainly on releasing with Smash the House, which is a very well-known label. They have big names like Dimitri Vegas, David Guetta, and so forth. But they also have sub-labels that they focused on less mainstream genres, like Smash Deep, which is more deep house, tech house, Generation Smash, which is a mix of pop and dance music. So I found it interesting, to work with them. Great experience. Obviously, having the chance of working with A&Rs and sound engineers and arrangers, but they've been in the music world, in the dance music world for decades, has been proven for me to be an extremely valuable experience. And right now, I recently finished a production, which is kind of like a sneak preview of the new single by American singer-songwriter Karina K, double K. And she had releases with Spinning Records. So she had singles that they were in the top 10 UK charts. Very successful dance vocalist, a great songwriter. I'm not going to say the name of the song. It will come out pretty soon. They actually finished to shoot the video in California a couple of days ago. I was checking the some of the photos from the set. It looks really, really nice. And on the same level, on the same type of genre, I recently did two remixes for two different Irish singer-songwriters. The first one called Marty Raffle. He's actually from Belfast, which is Northern Ireland, so it's UK, but he's in within the Irish island, on the same island. And Marty Raffle is a singer-songwriter. Think about like Coldplay, a little bit of Ed Sheeran, and his management, which I've been in touch through the years, and I also worked with on the PR side. They were very interested in trying to get radio airplay on dance radio stations. So they were saying, I'm known to be able to kind of like melt, put merge two different worlds, which is the world of pure club, kind of almost, rave scene where you have like, 5-6 minutes tracks, and then put at the same time the songwriting of pop. So being able to put together these two worlds definitely is still something valuable, especially when you think about something which has been around for ages, which is the remix format, or the mashups. There's no novelty about remixes and mashups, but it's still interesting to find when a remix is successful in introducing an artist that doesn't have anything to do with dance music to the dance community, and also, um, covering that gap, creating a bridge between two completely different communities. So one community is used to go and check DJs playing like 2 hours, 4 hour sets, and another community is used to go to a rock club and see 45 minutes, 1 hour concert with like 10, 12 different songs. So that dimension is still extremely relevant even in the age of AI, because you kind of need to go beyond the music, and you need to have a little bit of a background from the two different communities, the two different ways that people have to socialize through music. So
Mhm.
Marty Raffo was one of the remixes that I did, and I recently finished the remix of a song by an artist called David Punch, and he's 100% Irish. Um, I think he's actually not too far from Dublin, from where I live. Same management, same team, and the name of the song is different, and it's a very positive message of inclusiveness, of being for inclusion, for disability, for autism, Asperger syndrome, and showing that music does not just bring people from different cultures and different
Mhm.
backgrounds together, but it also bridges gaps between people that feel music the same way, even when we think that music requires like a different platform. Like if you think about, and we've seen this in festivals, audiences that maybe they were even deaf, and they could feel the music, through air, through pressure, or through visuals.
Mhm.
Or you had blind people enjoying the experience of being, surrounded by sound.
We do
So
something really,
music is so
yeah.
abstract but can literally bound together all humans and transcend any form of labeling, judgment. And this is still an extremely relevant
Mhm.
message. We've seen this also in the Olympics, actually, which they've been criticized in France, but we've seen so many different messages of inclusiveness, which are obviously, one of the core values of sports, because sports is meant to unify people. But all the artists that have been performing at the Olympics, they have been they made a point about this, because we're going through a really tough period. Socially, um, there's fraction of society that are struggling to to reach this utopia where we want to get together and grow together. So we don't want to be disjointed and just out of touch with reality. And
Mhm.
then there is all the other part of society which are still kind of like a bit struggling,
Yeah.
trying to find a way to get better at, communicating, growing together. And music always comes back
Yeah.
as the, and it's a very old, a
Mhm.
bit, not that old, because thinking about 70s, 60s, with 70s, with disco music, 80s with the club scene. Music is definitely a way to transcend reality, but it's also um, a way of bringing people together. And the value of the clubs, it's more a social value. Music is just it's almost like a tool,
Yeah.
Um,
So gonna jump in here really quickly here.
yeah,
Lots of stuff you've been up to.
definitely,
Lots of
yeah,
stuff. No,
and more to
there
come.
was a lot of stuff I wanted to talk with you. I didn't want to interrupt your flow there. One of those things that you hit was, talking about the people, the making the music with people with disabilities and things like that. You know, one of the things we do with our silent disco events, we've added what are called haptic technologies to our headset. So when you have a silent disco headset on, you can actually feel the music, the vibrations of the music, and everything. And that's a real treat. People love that because the one complaint they get is people that can hear, they'll say, "Oh, I can't feel the bass." Well, people who can't hear it, they can't hear the music. But if they put one of these sub packs on or a haptic speaker on, they can feel the beat of the music and dance along with that. And that's really cool how technology is coming together to make that happen. Going back, you mentioned, earlier that you had the recent collaboration with Karina K. You've been doing some remixes and all that fun stuff. And, how would you, if you could describe your music in 3 words, what 3 words would you choose to describe your music that you make as Coke Beats?
Well, it's 3 words literally. Like I can use positive, and visionary, and freedom are three, or free. Free as not as the monetary value of being free, but free as in freedom. So those are the 3 values. And positive is because to me, music can express so many different feelings, but being myself, somebody that um, I even am sometimes very practical. I want, I have a positive outlook, an optimistic outlook. I think there's always hope, and there's always, we are at a certain point as civilization, as humankind, where I think it's going to be really difficult that we're going to completely mess up. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be always even a small pack of people that would bring us, into a certain direction. So that's the positivity. And visionary, because I don't put any limits to the music. I mean, I'm still, multi-format DJ. I mean, currently, I'm doing a lot of guest mixes for radio stations. I'm getting a lot of requests. And I think in July, I was doing between 4 and 5 guest mixes for radio stations from like Mexico, Russia, you name it, like anywhere around the world. They were requesting me sets. And sometimes it was trance music, sometimes it was house, or melodic techno. It's the beauty of being multi-format, and I grew up being exposed by many different types of music, and I still believe that um, music should not really have a label, as far as a genre. I mean, it's good to have a genre to know what to expect. Like if I'm going to a festival and it's drum and bass, I know that I'm going to get certain type of people, certain type of energy. That's cool, and even colors, etc. But to me, there is no reason why somebody that listens to techno should not be able to listen to jazz. And we were talking earlier on about Berlin. If you even go to a very famous and extreme for some people, venue, such as Berghain. Okay, so if you go to Berghain, even in Berghain, which is considered to be this dark place, where privacy is holy and untouchable, you do have the panorama bar. You do have different levels within the building where you can experience different types of music. Like you can literally stay there for like 2 days in a row. Like you can go upstairs, I mean, in the, in the
I,
rooftop or whatever, the first floor, and there's chill out music. And
yeah.
then you go on the second floor, and there is like full on disco music for 4 hours.
Uh,
The guy playing records, playing
I,
vinyls.
I hear
And
it
then
can
you
be an
go,
8 hour wait to get into that place.
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it depends. Like like locals will tell you more about this, but
Yeah.
depends when you go. It depends, like if it is a night where you have some celebrations. Like I think they celebrated. It was either an anniversary or something about a year ago, and that was like impossible to get in because you had some people were lining up on Saturday night, or other people they will do like at 5 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, which is, in my opinion, better because the locals will never line up like in the night; they always line up in the morning.
Yeah.
So, but the concept is, coming back to the second point about being a visionary, which is that's what labels and radio station call me. I don't put boundaries to the genre. I'm not like a purist. Like I'm not. I don't do only house music, for example. I don't do only techno. You know, there's which is, I guess, sometimes a bit confusing, um, but the audience loves it because the majority of audience, especially the new generations, they really care about the genre. They want just music that they like. So as long as you have something which is like your signature, and to me the signature is that if I have music with vocals, you do have a sense of structure. It's like a song basically within a dance track. And if you have a DJ set, the songs in the DJ set are organized. They're chosen based on the journey. So, for example, like lately, because I DJ in so many different ways, funny enough, like the most visionary thing you can do is kind of like going back to vinyl records in a certain
Mhm.
way. And I did that like actually have right here. And also we're going to talk about briefly about a release that I've recently on vinyl. But going back on vinyl records, it kind of forces you to um, have a choice of music, which it does bring the audience into a journey because you are literally limited by the fact that you can't, do too much technical stuff. I mean, you can, obviously you mix in between records, you align them, you the beat matching, all the kind of stuff, but you're not gonna be like going crazy creating loops or creating, all the different tricks that you can do on a CDJ, which is really, really good if you do it like James Hype, which is very creative with the CDJs. There's a lot of great people on CDJs, and I play CDJs too, 3 CDJs, 4 CDJs. But when you go back to vinyl records, it's about creating your own collection of records, which I do have already. But you also you also find labels that they don't release on digital.
Mhm.
They just release on vinyl records,
So,
and or you find like crazy labels. But they do records that are like that you have 100 records, 200 records. So when you go to that night and you listen to that DJ set, it's a visionary because he's playing music you're not gonna be able to find anywhere. It's not on Spotify. It's not on iTunes. And if you like that, unique atmosphere, that mood, you have to go and check the DJ. And the
mhm.
last point is freedom. And freedom, it goes back again to the same thing about not being, a snob, like somebody that says, "Oh, I listen only to techno. I listen only to house music," because it's still happening. Still happening that some people are okay. I only dress in black. I only listen to really fast and heavy, the hard songs, which is cool if this is you, obviously. But at the same time, if you're a DJ, it doesn't mean that if you like techno, you are not allowed to check other records because you might like,
Yeah.
if you are into deep, heavy, sad vibes, you're probably gonna like, dark metal, or like doom metal, or some drone, crazy sounds.
Yeah.
So freedom is also in that, is in having a diverse and an open-minded
Mhm.
audience, and you
Yeah.
attract that type of audience when you jump in between records.
And owning your own label, Smash the House, you actually
Yeah,
get to express whatever freedoms you want and release
yeah,
whatever you want to play. And is that a recommendation you would make for more producers out there to go in and form their own independent label and then try to get their independent label to launch with other people? Or do you suggest they still make their own music and feel what they want to do and submit that to other
yeah.
labels?
Yeah, no, I don't own Smash the House. So Smash the House is the
Oh, you
label that
don't.
has.
Oh, just you'll have upcoming
Yeah,
releases with
that would be
Smash House. My
great. That
bad.
would be great if I own Smash the House. Smash the House is the label
My bad.
directed by Dimitri Vegas,
Oh,
which
okay.
is one of the main artists and main forces behind Tomorrowland. And making music with the Smash the House, team, has been a real challenge for me because they do have a very clear sound, which is a limitation for me because I want to go like on a tangent. So that's a very different. That's an interesting example, like actually for the question that you just asked for producers. So there are two different ways that you can go. There is one way, which I've seen being more and more popular, where you have producers. because a DJ not necessarily makes music, but a producer, or a DJ that works with a producer, and they want to do a release together, a collaboration, that they want to release a song with a label. Now, the reason to release a song with a label is not to get just your music out, because you can do that with any distributor. You can go from DistroKid, TuneCore, CD Baby, you name it. There's so many, right? The real value of working with a label, and this comes also with a tip, is that is that you really like them as a team, them as a community. So I'll give you an example. If you're from Seattle, so if I'm a producer and a DJ from Seattle, the first thing that I would do is that I would check the labels that are actually in Seattle. Even if they're small, it doesn't matter that. I would check them, because it makes more sense for me being from Seattle to work, or to start to work with a label from Seattle, than trying to get a release from a label from Berlin or Amsterdam or Belgium. And I tell you why. Because yes, you can sign with Spinning Records, you can sign with Armada Music, whatever label you want, Ministry of Sound. Because nowadays you can create a relationship with a talent manager, a label plugger, an A&R, you name it. You just go online, you drop your demo, you share your SoundCloud, you're consistent, you send emails, you're gonna get an answer, okay? And if your music is good and it fits the label, they're gonna sign it. The point is not getting signed with the label, it's asking yourself what the label is gonna do for me. What's the point? You see what I mean? So it's like and actually, because everything is online. I mean, even if you're in Seattle, obviously you're going to meet the guys on the label in person, but you're gonna still send files. So still, like, at that stage, you're still sending files. So when you're at the beginning, you want to show to the audience, they don't know anything about music. They don't know anything about, like, how to get signed. They don't care. They listen to music. If they like it, good. If they don't like it, they just swipe. They just move next. Okay. But they're gonna see one thing. They're gonna see how consistent you are as a producer and as a DJ. So, for example, my consistency is in being non-consistent. So in being multi-format. If I start to make for 2 years just house music, yeah, probably I can work with, like, a lot of house music labels, and and just or work with the same label for like 2 years. But it's not me. So I will not receive requests for remixes, because the people would be like, okay, the same type of people will request the remixes. I wouldn't have like a singer songwriter that does pop to do a remix for me. It would be something within the house world.
Mhm.
Maybe a disco pop, type of artist wants to have a house track. So to me, that's not me, first of all. And the second thing, the people that are following me, they will not understand my choice. They will be like, what happened? Like, what's going on? So the point is, this is the first point. The first point is, if you want to go and work with a label, ask yourself, first of all, why you want to work with that label. And if you don't have a clear idea of what you want to do, and obviously the wrong idea is that by working with that label, you're going to be successful, because
Mhm.
there's plenty of people that release music with all the big labels in the world. They get a bunch of streams on Spotify. They get a few articles. Do they get gigs? No, they don't, because they don't belong to any community. They just drop in music with putting a name. Numbers, they're important, nowadays, but it's kind of like changing the whole music industry game. It's more about people. Do they really know you? Like,
Yep.
the booking agencies know, booking agents know what you do. Do you have your own night, whatever. So that goes actually in the second point, having your own night. If you don't want to work with a label because you think that because you think it's a waste of time trying to work with a label, or you think that even if you get a deal maybe with a Seattle-based label, or for me, like in London or in Europe, then you create your own scene. And to create your own scene, you need to be sure only one thing. You need to be sure that you belong to a scene. And if the scene doesn't exist, you need to create that. So you need to be the energy behind a group of just passionate producers, because at the beginning it's not going to be money. You're
Yeah.
going to have to find people or people will find you, and this will happen live. So you need to go physically to
Yeah.
the venues, to the raves, etc., or conferences, and
Hmm.
then you're gonna find like-minded people.
Hmm.
And like-minded people, they'll be okay. Let's start with one project together. It could
Hmm.
be launching a radio station. It could be launching a podcast. It could be launching a label. And then that will create a consistency because that is basically a collective. When you have that, the audience will notice that and they'll associate you with the collective, which doesn't have to be limited by the fact that you're in Seattle or Berlin or whatever. The identity of a collective could be that all the people within that collective, they will share the same values and the same aesthetics. Like same stuff that happened like with the hyper pop genre with producers like Sophie,
Yeah.
which they were doing this extra cartoonish type of music, and they started to get noticed actually online in the online world. But because of that, because it was so different and unique, or from the visual side, from it was so cool.
Hmm.
Then they started to get attracted for more producers for collaborations and working with very big names, and then
So
even transcend music and go
yeah.
into fashion and other fields.
So speaking of that, a lot of good information you dropped there. Is there something really messed up in the electronic music world that needs fixing? And if there is, what's the one thing that you think that would need that to be fixed? And how would you go about, or how would you suggest changing that in the electronic music scene?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really. I think it depends the way you see it. Okay, so depends the way you see it because it could be something messed up or it could be something that it's up to you to make the right choice. So right now, certain environments, they work mostly based on the branding and on the marketing rather than the music. And other worlds, they're all about the music and all about the people. Okay, it's up to you as a producer to decide that. So you need to be smart enough to understand. Okay, wait a second. If I go with that label or with that manager, they can only introduce me to that world. Is it what I want to? Because if it is yes, I am committing for at least minimum 1 year. So 1 year of your life is gone, like committing to that. So, and I'll give you a practical example. If you are a techno DJ, which is starting, which wants to do production, but you're a techno DJ, and you have like 1 or 2 nights per month, maybe you have your own night, okay, and it's successful, like you're getting 300 people, you have your little scene and stuff like that. Does it really make sense to work with a label that will ask you to release music in a genre which is not what you're playing live, just because you want to get like 1 million streams, just because you want to get a playlist? The answer is no, obviously, because it's more valuable what you're doing with your own night, because it might not be paying anything in the first year, but what you're doing is that you're building a real fan base. Because right now, and this is not just for electronic music, and maybe this is what is messed up, is that we are starting to see more and more the real hype behind numbers. So the point is that we do have, like nowadays, especially with AI, you can craft really good looking photos, very highly polished videos. You can have people making music for you. You can have ghost producers. You can have ghost DJs that actually pre-record the set for you. You can completely like create a brand, not an artist, a brand, and then stick that to somebody that has a certain image or a certain appeal and create an online viral sensation. Okay, and you can sell that. The point is, how long you're going to be able to sell that, and most of all, what are you actually selling? Because you're not selling art, you're not selling content, you're selling like the quick bucks, like something that is like, I want to cash out of this product really, really quick. Okay, so if you're thinking about doing something that in 5 years you want people to remember you, and say, oh, this guy was doing something for the dance music community, and it could be the dance music community of a small town. I'm not saying like international, because there's all different stuff that comes into place for that. But there's politics and stuff like that. But still, like, are you about the music, or you're just trying to get something like really quick, but you might get burned, or your artist name might get burned, So that's something that needs to be in mind, and it might be something that is still a little bit messed up. The fact that in electronic music you can do stuff like that, but that's just the nature of music industry. And the nature of music industry is that obviously, when just to close this topic, obviously when we will see a saturation point, we're gonna hit the saturation point with which we're very close to, like probably next year, with all the tools that we have online, and then you need just enough money. Anybody would eventually be able to play, get a good spot in a festival, get one good release every single month, very good cover artworks, constantly post on socials every single day, right? But in the end, what is going to happen is that the audience is going to be so used to it that it will be the equivalent of saying, okay, but I actually never seen somebody, for example, that does a 6 hours DJ set. Why? Because you actually need to have the selection to do that. And otherwise people will get bored. They would just like completely ruin the whole thing. Or the comeback of vinyl records is another example. And notice that a lot of the new DJs that spin vinyl records, they spin disco music, they spin 70s funk music. So records that are like $5, But it's not about the price, it's about staying there and actually doing the crate digging. And the way they put it together, the way they organize the set, it makes perfect sense. And visually, for people, is actually seeing, wait a second, this guy is definitely not pre-recording the DJ set, because you can't fake it. So it's right there. There is a visual component, which, fun enough, is very similar to the massive success of cooking shows, where people, coming for the fast food to the fact that everybody can go and buy pre-made meals. But if I want to go in a restaurant and see the actual chef making the food, wow, that's like a luxury, It's something like unique. But anything, just getting pots and pans and putting like, hot water and throwing down a pasta, it becomes something like, oh, wait a second, I need time to do that, I need to learn that, etc. So in
Yeah.
music, this is happening, and it is happening for live music.
I'm glad you brought a lot of that up. One of the key things I wanted to touch on, pulling away from that, is that social media aspect. I keep hearing from a lot of veterans in the game, a lot of even people that have been around just even for the last 10 years in the game, that, booking show, having those inflated numbers. People can inflate those numbers, and, booking companies will look and say, I don't want to book somebody unless they have 50,000 followers on Instagram, or 50,000 people following them on TikTok, and look at their if they even take it down to the engagement rates, and see how that's what they're basing the importance on. They're not even looking at the skill. They don't even care if you have Beatport top 10 hits, or this. I mean, maybe if you have 1 million streams of a song on Beatport, okay, great, but what does that mean? Is how was that song produced? You're right. Did they produce it? Did they work with somebody on it? Did they ghost produce it? How much input did they have in that ghost production, in that sense?
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. Who's selecting their tracks? I recently came across a company. This is very interesting. They are making an AI application that you go in and I say, I want a set that sounds like Coke beats, and I want you to curate the set for me. And they will go out there and go and pop me all the songs in a list that I can take right over to Spotify, pulls it all the songs right up in Spotify and puts them all in order. And then I can obviously go purchase all those songs and go, I got a Coke Beats playlist. This is what Coke Beats would sound like if he was playing. Now, of course, I got to mix those songs. But, I can say Ferry Corstein. I can say Armin van Buuren. I can say whoever that is. And I want this list to be from 2023. I want this list to be from 2024. Or I want to do a classic Armin van Buuren mix. I want this set to be from 15 years ago. And they'll pull all those songs and curate the list for you. and then you could go out and buy those tracks and go, yeah, this is my curated list. And who would know that it was an actual Armin van Buuren curated list? Nobody would know that. They might, they might say, "Oh, Armin played that in his track," but it'd be tracks that are Armin van Buuren selections, not his direct tracks. So, that's where it's going to be very interesting to see if it goes to that next level. Could you make an AI mix, and it's going to know exactly when to time and transfer and cross those songs to make a perfect mix? I mean, you can play the songs, but they're not gonna mix together. They might not even be in the right order to tell the story of how they go.
Mm-hmm.
But as AI gets better, you could say, no, tell a story with these songs, and maybe we'll be able to say, okay, and now we got this, and it's like, hey, what's up? I predicted years ago when I was working for Apple, I was in the back employee room with a coworker. I said, if somebody made a perfect mix and put on an iPod and went behind stage, plugged that iPod in and hit play, how would you know? Because at that time there weren't laptops. I mean, this is 2005. Laptops were not, it was still CDJs. So How would you know if somebody popped in a CDJ or a CD, or just on channel 3 of the mixer, popped in an iPad, or even had a computer down below and hit play on the computer, and it just played the track? And he said, you would know, because the person wouldn't be that track. You wouldn't be able to read the room with the track. But if that mix was so awesome and hard hitting, though, and you knew it was going to work, would anyone know?
Now, there's a very quick answer to that. It's always all about the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do that. So the bigger is the audience, the more you can get away with that. And also people like Dead Mouse, James Hype, etc. Everybody knows that if you're playing on a big stage, on a massive festival, you cannot DJ live, because the time is like you're on the clock. It's like saying, if you're a rapper and you're on a festival, you have to rap over a backing track, and most of the times the backing track has lead vocals on it, so you're overdubbing yourself. That's because it's so on the clock, okay, that it's more performing a show than a DJ set or a band performing live, okay? Now, we're talking about an audience of like 12,000, 18,000 people. If you go in a small club, you can't do that, because in a small club, as you said, your set has to interact with the people, because it's harder. I mean, even David Guetta said this. David Guetta has an alias called Jack Black. And Jack Black does only small gigs, and smaller than the 8,000 people. And in those gigs, where he doesn't play classic EDM, he plays more like techno or tech house, and he has a bunch of synthesizers. And Carl Cox does the same. He has, all hardware sets, where it's like a live set. It's not like a DJ set. But it's not the point about playing playing. I mean, being playback or lip syncing, okay? Because that could be applied to any genre of music. Is who you are performing for. So what is the event, okay? So if you are a DJ like Sven Vath, for example, which is Sven Vath, has been around for like probably 40 years, I don't know, but for sure more than 30 years. He was DJing at the Love Parade, he was in all, like, he's somebody that does like 4 hours, 6 hours DJ set. He's still using vinyl records, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not using vinyl records because he wants to be cool, but because that's what he knows. And because of that, he attracts a certain type of audience. So somebody that goes to Exit Festival or Ultra Festival, and they go there because they want to have a good time and they want to blow the horn and just completely crazy, okay? Not necessarily is going to be interested in dancing to a slower, type of dance music with like 400 people, and maybe even having a chat with somebody next to you. So it's not necessarily compatible, because it's the equivalent of saying there's people that they want to go to heavy metal show, and they just want, to get hammered and just get out all the frustration, aggressiveness, everything. They're not necessarily compatible with somebody that goes in a quiet, jazz club to listen to three guys, upright bass, piano, drums playing. So compatible as an audience. So when you're talking about, just to close the parenthesis, to close the answer, to give you the answer, when you're talking about now, okay, right now, we are reaching a saturation point with the socials. And the socials, it can be anything. It can be any platform. It doesn't really matter what is that. The platforms are just a way of defining a demographics. So the younger demographic is on TikTok, the older one is on Facebook. But it just, it's just a way of like defining demographics. But in general, what we are seeing is that the online world will become less and less real because it's supposed to be a preview, okay, of the real world, but it's not. It's becoming an alternative reality. And we're moving into that direction anyway because of Meta, because of Oculus Rift, because of the gaming industry. People want to think about the online world as a place where they don't have to be themselves. They can be anything they want. They can change even who they are, okay? And that's cool. That's completely cool. But music, because it's something made by humans for humans, okay, will always have that element of socialization, interaction, being present, basically. So you will have people that they want to be entertained in a way that they're lonely together, literally, okay, and that's fine. You want to have people that they go and see a massively produced show with holograms and stuff like that. We will see that. It's normal. It's a natural direction. But there's always going to be somebody, even somebody from a new generation, that maybe never went to a library and, it doesn't even is accurate about and, feels like uncomfortable about sharing intimate uh, feelings with another person, can't have a conversation, can't build relationships. Even in that situation, okay, or somebody which is completely alienated, still they'll think about, I actually want to try that because I never tried it before. So, and music provides this because music is so abstract. It's not a movie. We're not going to go watch a movie together. We're not going to go to see an exhibition with sculptures and paintings. It's something that can tune people into different ways just by vibrations traveling through air.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned a lot about light and getting out and having that organic experience, basically, and there's going to be the virtual experience or AI experience, and there's going to be the organic experience. When it comes to your career, you personally with your career, how do you balance your DJ production career with the other obligations in your life? Or are you always turned on as Coke Beats and I'm just always doing something and I'm in this virtual world, but I'm in the real world? But how do you balance all that though? And what tips, insights can you share with younger producers or DJs to give them that key piece of advice that says, like, if you don't do this, you're going to burn out. If you don't spend time on this, just what would be how do you balance your life, and what would be some advice you would give to other DJs/producers to also balance their life out as well?
Yeah. So my suggestion would be, first of all, understand at what point are you in your life, in your artistic career. If you are somebody that doesn't have access to any scene, any community, and you're completely on your own, or if you're somebody that belongs to a scene, because it's two completely different realities.
Mm-hmm.
If you belong to a scene, you're probably going to stick to that scene and see where it goes and how it goes, and because otherwise you're going to go the other way, which is being completely on your own. For me, I experienced both. So I had not right now. Right now, I'm on my own, and it's a reflection of the time still. But up until 5 or 6 years ago, I was part of different scenes. I was part of Tokyo scene, in Japan, in Denmark, in Copenhagen, you name it. I had a lot of experience in different scenes and being part of that, which helped me to build a network, obviously, which I'm still connected to nowadays. But my suggestion is, if you're starting now, if you're a DJ that, started like, either as a passion or you want to give it a try and see if you can make a living out of it, you still need passion, even if you're thinking about it as a work, because that's what you're paid for. You're paid to entertain people and to make them feel something, because otherwise it's you can't work in the art world or entertainment world. So understand if you're on your own or if you're with a community. And then after that, decide if you want to go into a career that follows the music industry standards, which it means start and work with small labels and then build up the way up, okay? Or you want to go against that, you want to show that you want to go your own way. In that direction, you need to build your own label, you need to build your own system. One choice, the choice number one, which is going with the labels and the record labels, etc., is more about being able to understand and to trust the people you're working with, because you're going to be focused more in being a good DJ and making music. The second direction, which is the one was extremely popular like 10 years ago, of independent musicians, independent producers, and stuff like that, is where you want to give probably to an audience that is already there. And this is the choice of usually people that are artists that are part of a community. You want to build your own structure. If you want to build your own structure, you need to accept the fact that you can't be just an artist. You need to learn a lot of stuff that are part of like marketing and knowing what is good for you online. Get a photographer, or work with a photographer if you're part of a collective. So one direction is quicker, work with the labels or try to get signed, and then probably work with booking agents which are part of those labels. The other direction, which is you go on your own way, it's slower because you need to learn. It's still quicker than 10 or 15 years ago because you have, internet. It's a lot quicker nowadays, but it's not going to happen in 1 year. It's going to happen like in 2, in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
While if you work with a label, if you get like 3, 4 good releases in the range of 9 months, you could be playing a big festival in 9 months.
Yeah.
The situation is that if you work with the labels, the choice number one, it's going to be really difficult if you want to change genre or if you want to be more, like multi-genre. Okay, but maybe you're not multi-genre. That's what you want to do. So whatever choice you make, remember that it's about short-term decisions with long-term consequences,
Yeah.
no matter what direction you go.
So, success doesn't always last forever, especially for an artist. What do you do to save up for the future? What do you invest your earnings in? Or what do you suggest to other producers out there to look to do just in case that bubble does burst one day? And, now I need something to fall back on, or I'm not the hot flavor of the core, the month, the year, the day, the week. I'm not getting bookings anymore. What do you invest
Absolutely.
in? What do you do to save up for
Yeah.
that
Well,
rainy day?
I've like my passion since when I was a kid was to make music. So and then I'm also DJ, and I also play guitar and different instruments. But my main thing has always been to make music. To me, that was the very very first thing since I was like 16. The magic of like at the time there was no gear like nowadays. It was just a really pretty crappy like desktop computer, very slow softwares and stuff like that. But the magic of being able to make something that touch people and they want to listen to it, to me, that was the real deal. So, which means you're basically a producer at heart. Okay, producer as in music maker, composer at heart. So that's where your passion lies to. So if you're thinking about, and then you have a passion for DJ and all that kind of stuff. If you start, I can talk for people that start as a producer. If you start as a producer, you're gonna have to be a little bit of an entrepreneur. So it means that the element of success that you see most of the times on socials is for performers rather than producers. So performers, they are naturally liked by people. It could be a small amount of people. And then that kind of like organic, element that they have. Even in the most untalented person, if they're completely untalented, maybe they're good looking. There's something that always has to be a magnet, for people. But they're a performer, so they don't sit in the studio like for 2 months to make a track. So the world of producers is the world of artists that makes the magic behind the backstage, behind the curtains, so in that case, it's the tricky thing is that it's gonna be hard to be extremely successful. So for a producer, it's harder to have a hit than a performer, which is fun if you think about it. So if you look at the amount of producers that had hits, like real big hits, it's always lower than performers. Now there are performers that are also producers, but it's really hard to find a producer that is a popular performer. Even if you think about extremely big names like Tiesto, David Guetta, it took them 30 years to build that name, and the music has always been good throughout the years, but they needed to get good singers, good performers. Anybody, Diplo is the same thing, DJ Snake is the same thing. They can write great songs, but they're not the main performer. And if they're the main performer, that happened several decades after, or at least like 5 or 6 years after they actually started a career. So if you're a producer, how do you make it? What is the definition of success? The definition of success is not a hit. The definition of success is have a clear idea of what you think is your standard of living, what you want to do. Like if you want to go and move to Berlin, it's gonna cost a lot less than going to LA and move and live in LA. But is Berlin the right place or should be LA? Depends. So because in the end, you will have to make a living out of the only thing that you know to do the best, which is
Mhm.
doing music, which means you will have to work with other artists. You will have to sell songs. You will have to make remixes and charge for that. So if you're more into pop, hip hop, house, and stuff like that, then Berlin is I don't think is a great place for you. I mean, at least at the moment, on a surface level. So it will be probably quicker to go even to Atlanta or London or Paris, because they have a history of producers that do that music that already had success. So it's pretty clear that I mean, at least in person, you're gonna make more connections there for free just because you're there. And then you need to let the music speak. And the last point to answer your question is about what is the investment of a producer, what you should invest. Whatever you invest, whatever you do, producer, it's always going to be about the music. Like you need good music. You need great music. What is great music? Great music is within a genre. So, for example, if I do house music, okay, people have an a definition of what is a good house song. They might not like the lyrics or whatever, but it's that definition what people call quality. Like is like if you have a very good house song, but you give your song in a USB stick, right, to a DJ, for example, you send the email, and then they put it in a club where they have the best sound system, and it sounds horrible, you failed because you didn't think about the mixing, you didn't think about the mastering. If you don't know how to do mixing and mastering, you don't have to do it yourself. Invest and pay somebody. I mean, nowadays you can get like I was checking actually because I work with very good mastering engineers, which the labels, now the labels pay them, but I know how much they get, how much they charge, and I can say that some of the biggest mastering engineers in the world per song, they're not going to charge more than $300, which, if you think about it, it's not a lot because we're talking about like 10 years, it would be a grand, it would be $2,000 for mastering. Okay. Mixing is still pretty expensive. It's $900, $1,000 per track. If you want to get somebody which is at the top, but like if you want to get the top techno mixing engineer, you can still negotiate, you can still come down. You want to make sure that whatever music you're producing is produced at the top standards of that genre, because that song will stick with your name and people will associate with you. And you don't want to have people that say, "Oh, the song is good, but it sounds bad. There's something wrong with it." And it's good if you have somebody that says, "I don't like the song, but it sounds really good," which it does happen many, many times.
Exactly. No, that's one of the biggest things that I've heard a ton of times is people not mixing, mastering their songs, sending them in, and they're getting rejection all over the place. And, they don't even want to take a class. They don't want to do that, or they don't want to pay somebody to help them out and have that done for them. That can really put a damper on things. And one of the tests that I hear some people use is, you brought it up, is they use the car test. They go and listen.
Sure.
What's it going to sound like if it's playing in the car? It may sound good on your studio speakers, but what does it sound like in the car? What does it sound like in the club? If you have some friends that can hook you up with a nightclub and get in there and put it on a loud sound system and go,
Absolutely.
oh, wow, this is too hot, or that doesn't sound good. Or have your friend get an opening set at a club and maybe, see if you can network, like you said earlier, and be in that community and say, hey, can you maybe drop my track and at the first track or first couple tracks when nobody's there, just so I can see what this sounds like. And they're like, okay, cool, I can do that for my mix, and then cut it out and go to something else. That's a good way of testing that out. Well, we're going to wrap it up here really quickly. We are expecting an exclusive mix from you, another exclusive DJ Sessions mix from you. Super excited to be getting a hold of one of those. But is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you go?
Yeah, I'm very active on Instagram because there's so many platforms around. So if you want to know more about my music, my upcoming releases, feel free to connect over Instagram. That's the platform that I use to communicate, with my existing fans, or I have a lot of producers that follow me, mostly from the producers community. So Instagram definitely is the place to go, which is official Coke Beats, or even if you just type Coke Beats, you can see that it's the only one verified, because there's a bunch of Coke Beats. Also, people that clone my page. I had several issues in the past, but when I got verified, at least that that's the one to go to. Yeah, no, it's crazy, but yeah, that's the thing. And if you're creating music, the biggest challenge is to stay consistent, because you're gonna have downtimes, you're gonna lose motivation, but in the end, it's a challenge, as in life is literally testing you to see how passionate you really are about the music, about what you do.
Absolutely. I think that's consistency is one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give to people looking to start getting into doing online programming, online shows. They always say, what's the number one tip? I say, you got to be consistent. You don't need an excellent microphone. You don't need excellent speakers. You don't need excellent lighting. You spend all this thousands of dollars. You just need to be able to have a content that is there that people know when you say you're going on at a certain day and a certain time, they're going to subscribe to that. You better fulfill that subscription, because the moment you don't, they're switching the channel or going somewhere else. So consistency is a huge one. Again, Coke Beats, thank you for coming on the DJ Sessions. One more time, where's the best place people can find out more information about you?
Official Coke Beats on Instagram.
Awesome. I threw it up there for everyone to see. Well, again, we're going to stay in touch with you. We know you got a lot of stuff coming up. We like to stay in touch. It won't be a year that hopefully this time. It'll be hopefully in 6 months. We'll follow back up with you, see what's going on, and stay in touch with you, the Coke Beats. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Awesome. Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome. On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. You can find us on Meta, X, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to our podcast in the Apple Music Store. All those and more at thedjsessions.com. You got 600 news stories, exclusive interviews, exclusive mixes like the ones coming from Coke Beats, up on the site, and more merchandise and all that. Or download our app to take us on the go. Get into our VR nightclubs and more at thedjsessions.com. I'm Darren, coming to you from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and that's Coke Beats coming in from Dublin for the DJ Sessions presents the virtual sessions. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.